So this is going to be a part 2 to my original Biggie Smalls video. I wanted to make another video about this situation because I found so many more connections that prove that Bobby Shmurda is one of Biggie Smalls' characters. And also Bobby Shmurda basically admitted that he's Biggie Smalls because he did so much mockery with this after I made my first video. So here's a couple really good side-by-side comparisons of Biggie Smalls and Bobby Shmurda. This picture on the right is a young picture of Biggie, and it's crazy how much he looks like Bobby Shmurda when he was younger. And even when he was older, he still looks a lot like Bobby. So if you guys haven't seen the first video I made about this, the link is in the description below. So in this video, I talked about how somebody edited a picture of Biggie and they made him skinny, right? And many people noticed that skinny Biggie looks exactly like Bobby Shmurda. So I made a side-by-side comparison of the skinny Biggie next to Bobby. And as you guys can see, they literally look exactly the same. And I feel like that's why they get away with this one, because Bobby Shmurda is skinny and we never really saw Biggie skinny, so a lot of people wouldn't even notice. But it's right in our face because these two characters look exactly alike. And to top it off, they even have the same exact eyes. So if you look at Biggie and Bobby's left eye, which is our right, you can see that both of their left eyes are the same. You know, they both have that same lazy eye. So that makes this one really easy to see. So now let's talk about the mockery that Bobby Shmurda did. So this article says, Bobby Shmurda reunited with Biggie's son, CJ Wallace. And I find it interesting that they said Bobby Shmurda reunited with Biggie's son. You know, it's almost like they're admitting that Bobby Shmurda is Biggie and now he's reuniting with his son again with his other character. So here's the pictures of Bobby Shmurda and Biggie's son. And I also find it ironic that Biggie's son looks nothing like Biggie. You know, the fact that Bobby Shmurda looks way more like Biggie than his own son really shows that celebrities' children are fake. So here's some pictures of them together. And the biggest mockery with this is the fact that he even gave him a Biggie Smalls chain. As you guys can see by this picture right here, he was showing off this new chain that he got of Biggie Smalls. So Bobby Shmurda is literally admitting it in plain sight right here. And this is also damage control to my video because Bobby Shmurda linked up with Biggie's son on August 25th. And the first video I dropped about this was on March 13th. So 5 months after my video, Bobby Shmurda ends up linking up with Biggie's son. So they basically admitted it right after I made this video. Now let's talk about some more mockery that Bobby Shmurda did after my video. So in July, Bobby Shmurda announced that his next album is going to be called Ready to Live. And this is official. You know, they even have it on Genius right now. And as you guys can see, the album is called Ready to Live. And the mockery with this is the fact that Biggie's album is called Ready to Die. So he's basically naming his album the same as Biggie's album, but instead of Ready to Die, it's Ready to Live. And Biggie was basically doing predictive programming by naming this album Ready to Die, because then he actually ended up dying on March 9th, 1997. And he has an album called Life After Death that he released 16 days after he died. So don't you guys find that strange? You know, he dies on March 9th, 1997, and then he releases an album 16 days after he dies, and it's called Life After Death. But it gets a little bit creepier because this album was released on March 25th, 1997, right? And death equals 25 and 97 in Gematria. So this entire album release date was scripted. You know, what are the chances that it's released on the 25th in 1997 and death just so happens to equal 25 and 97? And he died in 1997 as well. And also Notorious equals 97 just like death in the same cipher. So there's a lot more Gematria connections that prove Biggie's death was scripted. But I'll talk about that towards the end of this video. So another weird thing about this album is the fact that the album cover for Life After Death is Biggie wearing all black and he's standing up leaning on the hearse. So they're almost letting us know in plain sight that he faked his death because this album came out right after his death and it's called Life After Death. And he also dropped another album in 1999, which was 2 years after he died, and it's called Born Again. And Bobby Shmurda was born in the 90s as well. So they're basically letting us know in plain sight that Biggie faked his death because he has this album called Life After Death, and Born Again. And then his other character, Bobby Shmurda, is born around this time. Now let's talk about Biggie's other character, which is Sheff G. And Sheff G used to be skinny, right? So it's interesting that when his character was skinny, he looked a lot like Bobby Shmurda. And then his character ended up getting fatter, and now he looks a lot like Biggie Smalls. So Biggie has two characters out right now. As you guys can see, Biggie and Sheff G look so much alike. And there's a lot of mockery for this one as well because somebody made an edit of Sheff G and they put this crown on him, which is a big reference to Biggie's picture with this crown. So they're letting us know in plain sight once again that Sheff G is another one of Biggie's characters. And Fivio Foreign also admitted that Sheff G is one of Biggie's characters. And if you guys remember, I made this video about Fivio Foreign 4 months ago. And I talked about how Diddy is Fivio Foreign and Jeremiah's base character. So the mockery with this is the fact that Diddy's other character, Fivio Foreign, is admitting in this interview that Sheff G is one of Biggie's characters. So here's the video.
Yeah, like Sheff is like Biggie, a little bit.
So the fact that Diddy's other character admitted this really shows how obvious this one is. And to top it off, Sheff G even has this freestyle where he freestyled over Biggie's beat, and he sounds exactly like Biggie Smalls in this video.
Look, and I'm Brooklyn's finest. You rewind this when a circle behind. I'm sick of hating and spreading lies. With signs of all this reason why I seek me to cow. My evolution is televised. Tell every claiming king I'm promoting the regicide. You've been advised. And all those who oppose, elimination is my only option. You try further my goals. And I bet they get the message. Dead or in jail, still they feel my presence. Look, I wonder if I die, would they come to their eyes? Of course it will. But there might be tears of joy for some. I turn into hate, fed my born from young. Of course I won. I eat while they feast, I hunt. I'm not nice with it, I'm violent. Been on different timing from them. Who did what we did, now let's be honest. Nah, nice with it, I'm violent. Been on different timing from them. Disrespect, now they don't want no problems with us. Look, kick in the door, we did with just bars. Cowards screaming, Sheff, don't diss me no more. Kick in the door, no art when I draw. We just made some millions, came from sleeping on floors. The more bread we touch, the more dangerous. Don't bang, but we bang on, you can't hang with us. The more bread we touch, the more dangerous. Don't bang, but we bang on the
So they admitted this one many times. You know, Bobby Shmurda admitted it by linking up with Biggie's son. And then Fivio Foreign admitted it in the interview. And then Sheff G is basically admitting it with his freestyle to Biggie's song. So all the proof is right in our face. But it gets even deeper than that because Biggie was born in Brooklyn, New York. And of course, Sheff G was also born in Brooklyn, New York. And Bobby Shmurda is also from Brooklyn, New York. Even though he wasn't born here, you know, he was born in Florida, but he moved to Brooklyn, New York. So this is still a massive connection. You know, the fact that all three of these characters are from Brooklyn, New York really shows that they didn't try to hide this one at all. You know, they put both of Biggie's characters in the same city that Biggie is from. That's a nasty form of deceit. You know, the fact that they literally put his two other characters in the same city. So Biggie is Jamaican, right? As you guys can see. And of course, Bobby Shmurda is also Jamaican. So that's another big connection. And another interesting connection is their stage names. So Biggie Smalls' initials are BS. And Bobby Shmurda's initials are also BS. And Biggie and Bobby sound very similar. And also, both of these names are 12 letters. So there's a lot of connections between these characters. Now let's get into the Diddy connection. So Biggie was close friends with Diddy, right? So isn't it interesting that Diddy's son calls out Bobby Shmurda in this video? And he's even doing Bobby Shmurda's dance in this video. Check this out.
I got the best shmoney dance in the world. I got the same genes as the dude that created the dance. Smash teeth, off your beef, no relief. So I'm gonna show you why mine is the best.
So I couldn't play the full video because the song started playing and I don't want to get copyrighted. But that was a big connection, you know, the fact that Diddy's son was dancing to Bobby Shmurda's song and then Biggie's son linked up with Bobby Shmurda. You know, all the evidence is there. Now, another connection is the fact that Biggie Smalls and Bobby Shmurda liked men. So a couple months ago, a man named Xavier Raza claimed he was in the bed with Brooklyn rapper Bobby Shmurda. And here's some pictures of Bobby Shmurda laying down with this guy. And even though later on they ended up saying that he wasn't actually laying down with this guy and that it was actually a girl. But this girl looks a lot like a man, so that was not a real girl. You know, they were basically letting us know in plain sight that Bobby Shmurda likes men. And you can tell by his mannerisms, you know, the way he dances, you can really tell that he's a fruity character. And I even found this comment that somebody made on his Facebook. So he posted this picture where he's doing this really fruity dance. And the top comment says, "This dude just seemed more and more fruity since jail." So a lot of regular people can even notice that Bobby Shmurda likes men. So the big connection here is that Biggie Smalls also liked men. For example, Lil' Kim revealed a story of Biggie Smalls stripping naked in front of men and doing the butterfly. Lil' Kim says he did it as a prank, but this is kind of a prank that would be off limits for 99.9% of straight men. And I would say 100% because that's not something that straight men do as a prank. So here's the video of Lil' Kim telling that story.
All right.
He would sing with no shirt on, and he would do the butterfly while he was singing. That was like his favorite thing. He thought it was so funny to like call everybody in the hallway. Sometimes he would be butt naked, and he thought it was so funny to just go do the butterfly. And everybody would come running like, "Yo, what's up? What's up?" And he'll be butt.
Kim, see, you trying to tell me he was the only one naked? Is that what you telling? So one person is naked? I'm confused.
Ask the boys, they'll tell you.
So not only does that story prove that Biggie Smalls loves men, but he also kind of admitted it on this song.
You look so good, huh? I suck on your daddy's.
So he has this line in this song where he said, "You look so good, he'll suck on her daddy's D." And that's certainly not something a straight man would say. Now let's get into the Tupac and Quavo connection. So as you guys know, I have 2 videos about how Quavo is one of Tupac's characters. So if you haven't seen that video, the link is in the description below. I highly recommend you guys check that out because this video was groundbreaking. You know, by this side-by-side comparison alone, I'm sure all of you guys can see the resemblance. So the big connection here is the fact that Tupac and Biggie were beefing a lot in the 90s, but they were actually friends before that. As you guys can see, they have this picture together. And notice how Tupac is wearing this skull on his shirt. You know, he did predictive programming that him and Biggie were gonna die. But anyways, the connection here is that Biggie and Tupac were friends that later had beef. And Bobby Shmurda is friends with Quavo. As you guys can see, they have multiple pictures together. And they even have this song together as well. And now let's talk about the Youngboy and Michael Jackson connection. So again, if you haven't seen this video, the link is in the description below. You know, it's important to know that Youngboy is one of Michael Jackson's characters to understand this connection. So right now, Bobby Shmurda is beefing with NBA Youngboy. And the connection here is that Michael Jackson was friends with Biggie Smalls. As you guys can see, here's a video of them shaking hands. So this is an interesting connection because Michael Jackson was friends with Biggie, and now both of their younger characters have beef. And this is similar to the Tupac and Quavo connection because Bobby Shmurda is friends with Quavo, but Tupac and Biggie had beef. So it's a very similar situation. You know, they beef with one character and then they're friends with their other characters. So now let's talk about Biggie's agenda because Biggie was not a good person. It's even in his name. His stage name was the Notorious B.I.G, right? Well, Notorious means famous or well known for some bad quality or deed. So he was basically letting us know that he was famous for being a bad person. And he even has this song called Hypnotize on his Life After Death album that came out after he died. Hypnotize means to produce a state of hypnosis in someone. So it's basically like putting someone in a trance. And the definition of hypnosis is the induction of a state of consciousness in which a person apparently loses the power of voluntary action and is highly responsive to suggestion or direction. So hypnosis basically means that a person is in a state of consciousness where they don't have the power to make their own decisions and they're highly responsive to anybody that suggests something to them. So basically Biggie is letting us know in plain sight that he's hypnotizing people, which basically means that he's mind controlling people because that's what hypnosis is. And you can really tell how people are hypnotized by this character because they idolize him. You know, he has murals all over New York. So this is a very idolized character. And it's important that we don't idolize celebrities because not only is idolatry a sin, but these are demons. You know, they're letting us know that their intentions are bad. You know, his name is Notorious, which means someone that's famous for doing bad. And they even have this Wack statue of Biggie Smalls. So now let's take a look at the symbolism that Biggie does. So right here, he's doing the L symbolism with his hand by putting his fingers in this L-shaped position on his face. And then right here, he's doing one-eye symbolism with his hat. And here he is doing one-eye symbolism again. So when you see celebrities doing this symbolism, they're letting you know in plain sight that they're deceiving you and that they have bad intentions. So here's a picture of Bobby Shmurda also doing symbolism with his fingers. And I found this picture of Bobby Shmurda wearing this jacket with his big one-eye symbolism on it. And right here, he's dancing in front of fire, symbolizing the fact that he's taking all of his fans to hell. You know, like I said in my last video, celebrities' main agenda is to get you to sin as much as possible so that you can go to hell with them. So now let's get into the gematria connections. So Bobby Shmurda's real name is Akil Gene Pollard. And Biggie's real name is Christopher George Latour Wallace. So the Notorious B.I.G equals 82. And Bobby Shmurda's real name also equals 82. And then both of their middle names equal 24 in the same cipher. And Biggie died at age 24, which is very interesting because, like I said, both of their middle names equal 24 in gematria. And then Bobby Shmurda's real name equals 263, and Biggie's real name also equals 263 in the same cipher. And then Biggie and Bobby Shmurda's last name have the same gematria of 39 and 33. And then Bobby Shmurda's first name matches up with Biggie's middle name. They both equal 91 and 37. And then Shmurda equals 42. And Biggie's last name Wallace also equals 42 in the same cipher. So Biggie was born on May 21st, 1972. And May 21st, 1972 is a Sunday. And Biggie died on March 9th, 1997, which ironically is also a Sunday. And Sunday is the day where they worship the sun god, so that explains why Biggie was born and died on a Sunday. So the fact that Biggie was born and died on a Sunday connects to Bobby Shmurda because Bobby Shmurda was born on August 4th. And when you write that out, it's 8/4, like 84. And Sunday equals 84. And Biggie was born and died on a Sunday. And Masonry also equals 84. So Sheff G is also connected to these characters in gematria. So Sheff G equals 33. And Pollard, which is Bobby Shmurda's last name, is also 33. Masonry is 33. Passed away is 33. Biggie is 33. And Biggie's birthday, May 21st, is also 33. And then Bobby Shmurda's real name equals 70. And Notorious B.I.G is also 70. And Biggie's date of death is 70 as well. So I found it interesting that they have this entire event on Wikipedia called Murder of the Notorious B.I.G. You know, the fact that there's an entire event of this murder on Wikipedia shows that all of this was a ritual. So Murder of the Notorious B.I.G equals 324. And Biggie's full name, Christopher George Latour Wallace, also equals 324. So Biggie's cause of death was a drive-by homicide. Drive-by homicide equals 88 in the same cipher as Biggie's real name, Christopher Wallace. And 88 is a very symbolic number, but I'll break that down in a separate video. And murdered also equals 88. So another thing I found interesting is the fact that Biggie was shot to death at a stoplight in Los Angeles, and Tupac was shot to death at a stoplight in Las Vegas. So do you guys really think it's a coincidence that both of these characters were killed the same exact way? But anyways, let's get back into the connections. So Biggie was killed in Los Angeles. Los Angeles, California equals 197. And the Notorious B.I.G equals 197 in the same cipher. And the mockery with this is the fact that Biggie even has a song called Going Back to Cali, that was released after he died on this Life After Death album. And going back to Cali equals 66, just like homicide. And then Cali equals 83, just like murder and Christopher George, which is Biggie's first and middle name. And the reason why a lot of characters fake their death in Los Angeles is because Los Angeles, CA equals 41 in the same cipher as Death Hoax. And then LA, California equals 101. And Biggie's real name, Christopher Wallace, also equals 101. Biggie's middle name, Latour, equals 37 in the same cipher as shooting. And Los Angeles also equals 37. So Biggie was shot in front of this museum called Peterson Automotive Museum. And this is very ironic because this museum is about cars, and Biggie was shot in a car right outside of this museum. So the name of this museum is Peterson Automotive Museum, which has the same gematria as Christopher Wallace. They both equal 101 in gematria, which reminds me of this other connection, because LA, California also equals 101. So this really shows how scripted this entire situation is. Biggie's death was very scripted, even down to the hospital that he died at. So after he was shot, they drove him to this hospital called Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles. So the name of this hospital has the same gematria as Biggie's first and middle name and Biggie's date of death. They all share the number 106. Now let's talk about some more scripting with Biggie's date of death. So Biggie's date of death is March 9th, 1997, which equals 70, just like Notorious B.I.G. And then his date of death, March 9th, 1997, equals 153, just like Biggie's real name, Christopher George Latour Wallace. And then Biggie's real name equals 114, just like passed away. And then Biggie Smalls and killing both equal 74 and 115. And then Notorious B.I.G. equals 160, just like assassination. And I found it interesting that he has B.I.G. in his name because B.I.G. has the same exact gematria as Die in all four ciphers. They both equal 18, 18, 63, and 18 again. Even Biggie's date of birth is scripted because Biggie was born on May 21st, 1972, which equals 61 and 34 in the same cipher as fake death. And his birthday, May 21st, equals 33 in gematria, just like Sunday, and he was born and died on a Sunday. And then Biggie equals 33 and passed away also equals 33. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I put a lot more research into this video because I really wanted to prove that Biggie Smalls is Bobby Shmurda and Sheff G. So thank you guys so much for watching. Drop a like if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe, turn on post notifications. Follow me on Instagram and subscribe to my Patreon. The links are in the description below. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'm out.